Look out, boxing fans. Ashley Knuckles here. Um, Maybe about a video or two ago, we were talking about fights that were past its born on date. And as I thought about it, we also have another fight coming up that's past its born on date, which I will elaborate further as to how it's past its born on date. And that's the fight with Canelo Alvarez versus James, the Mandingo Warrior Kirkland from Austin. And the fight is taking place, I believe, at 155. So that's not a junior middleweight fight. Of course, the junior middleweight limit is 154 pounds, meaning you can't weigh in anything over that amount, especially if it's sanctioned by some organization. Um, so anything outside of 154 pounds going upwards is middleweight, as the middleweight limit is 160, but anything between 155 to 160 is middleweight, meaning you cannot weigh anything over 160 pounds for it to be a middleweight fight. So the fight is at middleweight. And I think it favors both fighters. One, because Kirkland has been inactive, and in most fighters that are inactive don't train with the same intensity they do if they are active and getting fights on a regular. They have a tendency to be relaxed. They have a tendency to, live life like any other normal person, especially if you're not getting fights. Only a selected few or a small percentage of fighters live in the gym. And I mean, even when they don't have fights, they still stay in dog shape to where when they get a fight, training camp is not so much emphasis on shedding weight as it is on just honing your skills, getting your skills prepared, making sure you get all the chinks out your armor, making sure that any deficiencies you had in prior fights from watching tapes, that you're correcting those so you won't do the same things going forward. So another trainer on the opposite end they have a harder time preparing for you, because the weaknesses they probably deciphered from prior fights, you won't be showing them that in the fights with their fighters in the future. So the fact that it's not at 154 pounds and that it may be a pound over, I think it will help Kirkland, because he hasn't had to make that weight, which was becoming hard anyway. Now I know a lot of people are thinking, oh, it's just 1 pound extra, but believe me, that 1 pound is gonna make a world of difference when you're trying to squeeze water weight out of a guy who has no more water in him, has no more fluids in him. It's like trying to take water out of a rock, you know. So I think that will help him, and the fact that he's been inactive, he won't have to go into the fight drained. Same thing with Canelo. Even though he's been the active fighter, he's a big boy. He's been growing out of 54 for a while. It's been fairly difficult for him to continue making that weight. He does want to continue campaigning at 154 pounds. And as long as he's fighting in or within around his weight, it won't be so hard the next time to stay to get to that weight, to make those numbers 154 on the scale, with the proper diet, of course. If he's properly motivated, as he was when he fought Mayweather, we see that he can make weight, as that fight was at a catch weight. And he was in dog shape for that fight, and it fought very well. He just got shut out. He never stopped trying though. I got a lot of respect for Canelo, and it wasn't always like that. I used to be one of his hardest critics. I used to talk bad about him, call him cinnamon, even though that's what Canelo means. I used to call him cinnamon, not Canelo. I used to say it in English and make it sound like it was sort of feminine. I used to call him El Campeón de Papel, if I'm even saying that right. But I used to say that. I used to call him Paper Champ, because his rise to fame I didn't agree with, because there was a time, even though Canelo being as skilled as he is, and he a fighter, he wants to fight the best guys out there. Before for a time, Oscar was babying him, and he wouldn't get no media pressure to step Canelo up in class. I mean, they were constantly having him feast on guys that were way below his weight. He was fighting guys like Matthew Hatton, who was a welterweight. They brought him up in weight to fight for the WBC title, and made him fight at a catch weight. And then Canelo ain't even make the goddamn weight himself. You know what I'm saying? Shit like that was just burning me up. He was fighting guys like Josecito Lopez. He is not a 54 pounder. He was barely even a welterweight. Those fights should not have taken place. And he had him fight, Miguel Cotto's big brother, who was smaller than Miguel Cotto. I mean, just fights like that, fights that should not have even taken place. That's why I was a critic of Canelo. Canelo is a fighter, though. He don't handle the business aspect. That's why he has Golden Boy. But Golden Boy had him on a severe protection. And as of right now, you see the barricades have been lifted. Canelo's like, look, goddamn it, I want to fight this guy. Oh no, I want to fight that guy. And it's lately been the guys that most people didn't think he would fight, and he's fighting these guys. He's in the ring with those men, giving it all that he got, and giving it in a good account of himself. So that's how he won me as a fan. And I'm a fan of Mexican fighters. I'm a fan of all fighters, but I've stood on the fact for years. I always thought the toughest fighters in the world were Mexican. Didn't say the best fighters in the world were Mexican. But the toughest fighters in the world are Mexican. And the reason why I say that is because, I hold it to be true, but I'm from Texas. So if you grow up down here, you're going to fight a Mexican or two growing up. And you're going to know firsthand, when you fight a Mexican, you better come on with it. Because you got to beat the shit out of them if you want to win the fight. You got to, because they ain't going to stop coming, dog. And that's from the streets to the gym. So that naturally, if they in the gym, I'm going to ride with Mexico because I know what they do. I know what they come to do. Of course, I ride with my own. I'm not going to turn my back on my own or anybody else who actually comes to fight, but I got firsthand experience. So that's why I say that, not just because of their lineage and their history in the sport of boxing. They're just tough guys, Mexicans. They're just tough people to fight. They're tough guys, But I wasn't a fan, but I am now as far as Canelo. Now, Kirkland, everybody knows about Kirkland. I know about Kirkland. He was in amateurs with my boy. And he's from Austin. And shit, he's had a fan-friendly style ever since they were bringing him up and he was on Showbox. He had cornrows. He had braids in his head at that time. He ended up cutting that shit out. But his style was always similar. He was always in dog shape. He came to fight, brought the fight to you. And at the same time, he and Canelo were signed by Golden Boy. They were babying Canelo and basically sitting on James Kirkland because he should have had a title fight by now. He had been in the game for years. He had earned his spot within the top 5 of the division. I mean, years ago, the top 5 at that weight was Kirkland, Angulo, it was Martirosyan, several other top guys, Lara, I believe, and I don't know, somebody else. But the thing about it is, they Golden Boy as well as the WBC were trying to find every avenue in the world to where Canelo did not have to defend his title against these guys. That's why I was calling him a paper champ. He didn't do it; his people were doing it. But I mean, you're a part of that, so I had to go against the fighter. You know what I'm saying? They tried to make these guys fight tournaments where they basically beat the shit out of each other, and then Canelo had to face one of them. I think the other guy in that top 5 was Saul Roman. And as you see, Angulo and Kirkland fought each other. Roman and Martirosyan fought each other. And I think it was several other fights that took place. Lara and some other guys were fighting. And Canelo never had to face any of these guys. So it was bullshit. And, that leading on to that fact, Kirkland had to fight several eliminators to get his title shot, which he never got. He fought an eliminator against Molina. He fought an eliminator against Angulo. I mean, it was just fight after fight he had to take in order to secure that title shot that he never got. Same thing with Vanez Martirosyan. He had fought an eliminator to fight Angulo. It never happened. He also won the silver title, which is supposed to be, we already know titles ain't shit. But the whole premise of a silver title being in the sport of boxing is because the silver title is supposed to secure your title shot against the champion at a date, at a determined amount of time. In a determined amount of time, it's almost like a title that says you are the next in line for the fight, and that fight never took place. And around this time, there was a little beef between Canelo and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. And even Jr., being with Top Rank, used to always talk down on Canelo, saying that he wanted to fight Canelo, but Canelo was scared. Just everybody was coming hard on Canelo, except the media, of course. They always pick and choose on who they put pressure on. But this was a bona fide reason to put pressure on the guy, and the reason why they didn't is because they said he was a bright spot in the sport of boxing, and he was popular, and he sold out arenas in Mexico, and he was box office. He had appeal, and everybody should get behind him. It was just a bunch of horseshit. You know what I'm saying? And you know how I feel about the media, man. They just piss me off with that shit. Well, anyway, this fight should have happened a long time ago. And in the midst of all that time, of course, we know Kirkland got in trouble. But like I said in a video years ago, all fighters are not groomed to be in suits. You cannot endear every fighter to the public. There's some real killers in that gym. I've said this shit because it's the truth. Not everybody who come to the gym to be a fighter is a guy that's a stand-up guy, a guy that has great social values, who can blend in society and just be an outstanding role model for the kids. It's not like that. There's some dogs in there. You know what I'm saying? But the fact of the matter is, if you have a fighter, they need to be active. Idle time is a devil's workshop. So by the fact that Kirkland was not being active his whole time, Golden Boy was sitting on him, wasn't giving him fights. He was he had to claw and scrape just to get a title shot that he should have got a long time ago. He ended up getting in trouble, and that's no excuse. You got to obey the laws. You know what I'm saying? You got to do what you got to do to stay out of jail and be in this free world. Believe me, being in jail is not cool. No animal on this earth should be caged. You know what I'm saying? The world is here for everybody who dwells on land to move around freely as you see fit. And being in a cage is not cool for anybody, man. Of course, I think he knows that now, but I think it derailed his career. He's had several issues, promotional issues, litigation. He ended up signing with 50 Cent, which could have been career suicide. But the fact of the matter is, James Kirkland still represents a threat, and he still represents a fighter that the networks have a vested interest in, as he is made for television, which is why he is getting this fight. And he earned it. He earned it a long time ago. And being of the fact it's a Mexican versus a Texan, it should sell well in the South and in the West Coast. But with a fight like this should sell everywhere. It's actually pay-per-view worthy. And I'm not sure if it's pay-per-view. It probably won't be, as Kirkland has not been active. You know what I'm saying? So that's a good news for the boxing fan. If you can't be there live, you can definitely tune in on whatever channel it's going to be on. It's probably going to be on HBO. But in the fight itself, it's a great fight. Like I said, Kirkland should have had the fight a long time ago. I remember when I covered a fight, the Kirkland versus the Molina fight. I interviewed James Kirkland. I asked him about it. I forget what his answers are, but I'll go and find the links and I'll put it in the description box. Maybe a couple of years before that, I interviewed Anne Wolfe at one of Top Rank's event. Anne Wolfe was just there because she's a student of the game. She had no fighter on the card. She was just going to the actual event just to watch some fights. It was in Houston. They live in Austin. It's just a hop skip to get here. So, and I asked her how she felt about that, and I believe she was talking about how they were protecting Canelo and that it was an eliminator to eliminate the eliminator. I remember that shit. But I'll find that video. This was years ago. I'll find that video and I'll put it in the description box too. They cool people, man. Kirkland and Anne Wolfe. Anne Wolfe is a serious woman, but she funny as hell, man. She real funny, but she's just a serious woman. She don't take no bullshit. She was a fighter before. Probably one of the best female fighters to ever put on gloves, and she didn't get the marquee fight that she wanted. A fight that could have revolutionized women's boxing, and that was the showdown that was supposed to take place between her and Layla Ali, which is Muhammad Ali's daughter. Um, but anyway, in the fight itself, it's happening now. Marvel in the fact that the fight is happening in your time. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna get to see it. And the only thing I don't like about the fight is that Kirkland has been inactive. And in boxing, a lot of this shit is just fighting guys with the right timing. You know what I'm saying? You catch these guys off of layoffs. You catch these guys coming off of injuries. You catch these guys coming off of losses. You catch these guys going up and down in weight. And that losing dramatic amounts of weight drain these guys. It's a lot have to do with timing. Seldomly do a lot of fighters want to fight guys when they hot, and because history won't reflect if the guy was hot. Because when years from now, when a guy look at a ledger, look at a resume, it don't bring up all the intangibles that me and you know about. It don't say, oh, he was riding a hot streak. It don't say he's been inactive. It don't say he was battling an injury. It just shows names, fights, dates, and outcomes in the place that it took place. So they'll get the criticism now, but it won't. No criticism will be reflected in years to come. So that's why a lot of fights happen based on timing. And this is perfect timing for Canelo. I mean, he's been active. He's been fighting good fighters, top-notch fighters, and Kirkland hasn't been active. And he don't even have Anne Wolfe in his corner. And we know when Anne Wolfe ain't with James Kirkland, what will happen? Kirkland is a dog. He come to fight. He brings it to you. He's a lefty, volume puncher. He fights every second of every 3 minutes of every round. Pressure fighter, closes the distance, don't allow you to breathe. And from guys who spar Kirkland, they say even his sparring sessions are wars. That's the only way he knows how to get down. Like, that's a fight itself. You just not, well, you are getting paid. Sparring partners do get paid. But you're not getting no purse. You know what I'm saying? You're supposed to be going there and helping them work on stuff leading into the fight, and he's in there beating your ass, So it's a trip, man. It's a trip. But we already know what James Kirkland gonna do. If he don't have Anne Wolfe in his corner, I think that's a tragedy, being of the fact that she's helped groomed him for this moment in his career, and I think it's a shame she won't be there to help him secure it, because it's already hard enough with her in his corner. It was already a tough task moving forward anyway, but I think without her, it's going to be that much more difficult because she made stuff purposely hard in camp that for James Kirkland to get prepared for the fight. She made the situations in camp much more difficult, so the fight would be that much easier if that makes sense to you. No fight is easy. Every fight, every man that you stand across the ring with is dangerous. In his mind, he thinking, I'm going to unglue you. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to beat your ass. There is no gentleman clauses. There is no sympathy. Well, let me just take it easy on him. There is none of that. That's that media bullshit. A fighter's mindset is to disconnect this guy on the other end from me because I know that's his fucking mindset. And if any media member tells you differently, fuck him. Excuse my language, but it's the truth. They're trying to pussy up my sport with that bullshit. Because what I just said is boxing. That's what they think. That's their mindset. That's the mindset of a fighter. And that's the truth. And I don't have to write it down in no article. That is the truth, bro. You know what I'm saying? And I had to learn that the hard way, getting my ass laughed out of a fucking gym back when I first went into a gym with my cousin. My cousin used to fight amateurs. And I used to go in there with the same nonsense that they talk about in the articles. And I'm telling you, you don't have a place there when you go in there with that nonsense. That's why you don't see them there. But anyway, man, the fight is even though it heavily favors Canelo, it's not a guarantee. Every man that puts on a pair of gloves has a shot, especially if he properly prepared for you. There's tape on every fighter that you fight. Well, not every fighter that you fight, but there's tape on Canelo. You can't avoid having tape when you're a star fighter. You know what he comes to do. You know what his skill level is. You know his style of fighting. And, if you watched him closely, you probably know his vulnerabilities and vice versa for James Kirkland. But every fighter has a chance. And that's why, even though it may not be a toss-up, in terms of picking an underdog or whatnot, it's still an uphill battle for Canelo in this fight because he's going to have a guy that's going to be on his ass for 3 minutes of every round. Now, the good thing about it is that um, Canelo style complements James Kirkland style, or as most people will say in the business, in the sport, Kirkland, his style is tailor made for Canelo. It's the truth. Anybody who has the nuts to walk at Canelo, to come right at him, you asking to get your ass whooped because he has a guy that'll make you respect his fight game. He has the power to make you respect his punch. His punch is decent. He can get you out of there. He has enough punch output to inflict serious damage to where guys basically fighting a good portion of the fight hurt. Let alone trying to win rounds. They just trying to go the distance. You know what I'm saying? Trying to avoid being knocked out. And that's really how I see the fight playing out. I think if Kirkland hops dead on his ass and can possibly get Canelo hurt early, I think he can really have a good chance of beating Canelo. Because if he hurts you, you are gone. So I'm not even worried about if he gets Canelo hurt. The only way if he gets Canelo hurt and Canelo survives, it's because it was like seconds before the end of the round and Canelo got his faculties together in the corner. And then after that, it'll be all Canelo. But if he get him hurt with at least a minute left, he's gonna finish him. But I don't analyze fights on what ifs, all the hypotheticals. I analyze it based on what it is, and what it is a active, skilled fighter against an inactive, skilled fighter. And I think the active skilled fighter is going to prevail. And being of the fact that Kirkland's style is tailor made for Canelo, I think it's going to make for a spectacular knockout. It is not going the distance. The only thing about it is, I see Kirkland getting knocked the fuck out. I hate it. I love the guy. I love to see the guy fight. He's from my state. He's from the Lone Star. He ain't from the Bio City though. That's H-Town. He ain't from here, but he's still from my state, man. He's a cool dude. You know what I'm saying? He's a cool dude. But that's neither here or there. When you get in that ring, you got a job to do, and that ain't got nothing to do with me or fans. You're not in the fight thinking about, oh, what do the fans want me to do? Let me entertain. You know what I'm saying? I mean, a fighter doesn't have that mind frame. It's to take the guy out. That's it. You know what I'm saying? So, good luck to both men. I know it takes a lot to do that for a living. It takes a lot to do that one time. But for a guy to make a living out of fighting, I can never give my gratitude to these guys enough. I can never take my hat off enough to these guys. A lot of times I analyze from the fans' point of view. I criticize guys, but at the end of the day, they fight. That's how they punch in their clock. I don't fight. When I punch in the clock, I'm entering into a plant somewhere, getting ready to look at some damn metal. Look at a pipe or a tank or a pressure vessel. You know what I'm saying? That's what I do. Inspection. And these guys are in a sport where they are inflicting physical harm to another man and vice versa. So you gotta respect it. And I do. So I think Canelo's gonna win. I think it'll be the type of victory that can catapult him popularity-wise to another level. He's already a pay-per-view star. Yeah, he's doing 300 some odd buys, but prior to the Mayweather and the Pacquiao pay-per-view era, a pay-per-view event that sold over 300,000 buys was considered a successful event. A successful event. It's just these little guys, Mayweather and Pacquiao, has taken pay-per-view and just blew it completely out of spectrum with all the numbers that they've done in their career. And of course, Oscar, he did it too, but Oscar was the golden boy. There's always been a hot shot guy in boxing who was big time box office. That was Oscar, but there were other pay-per-view stars during the same time, but their numbers were around the 300, maybe 400. Those are your Tito Trinidad's, your Roy Joneses, your Eric Morales, and I believe Nassim Hamed, as far as pay-per-views. And that's all I got for you. I know I'm missing something, but whatever. I've talked for damn near 25 minutes. Let's see what you guys think. If you got something to say, put it in the comment section. If you really got it on your mind, put it on the video. But until next time, Ash, holla.